so well.
Keep on smiling in my time.
So behind me is the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. The Stelvio is Alfa Romeo's Renaissance period. It's back and it's better than ever. But now they've come out with an SUV. Think of this as like a Porsche Macan from Italy. They've gone for the low center of gravity, striking looks, and designed for driving pleasure. Hence why it's called the Stelvio. If you have ever seen the Stelvio pass, it's full of twists and turns and long straights and pretty much just curves like a big bit of spaghetti that's fallen on the floor down a Italian mountainside. In the wise words of Jeremy Clarkson, you're not a real car enthusiast until you've owned an Alfa Romeo. So let's check out the most practical Alfa Romeo that has ever existed. So as the title suggests, what makes this the most practical Alfa Romeo that's ever existed? Well, the Stelvio came out alongside its Giulia sedan cousin, sharing a lot of interior parts as well as engine and chassis, but this is the Stelvio TI. This sits at the top of the range currently as we're waiting for that Stelvio QV to arrive, which is due to arrive probably earlier next year with the Ferrari V6 as we've discussed in earlier videos. But the Stelvio TI has plenty of power. It goes 0 to 100 in about 5.7 seconds. That's helped with over 200 kilowatts worth of power as well as 400 newton meters of torque. This is also powered by Alfa Romeo's Q4 system, which is the all-wheel drive system, which is expected on an SUV, but this is probably the prettiest SUV that you can get for this sort of money. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's great quality in BMW and Audi and Mercedes, but when you start looking at them, they become bland. They blend into the traffic, the silver, they just sit there, you know, there's no flair to them. But the Stelvio stands out with distinct Alfa Romeo grills and styling, as well as aggressive front splitter and awesome rear tailpipes. The Stelvio is probably the pick of the range, and it's probably the best SUV in terms of looks and dynamics they can get in the mid-size SUV market. You have two obvious cannon-like exhausts. You've also got some dynamic body panels as well as some nice aluminium trim. Jumping in on the inside, you have a nice automatic tailgate, which can be activated via the key as well. But you also have plenty of space back here. You have aluminium guide rails that allow you to put a cargo net over any loose sort of materials, or if that dog's being really annoying in the back, you can just tie him down with the net that you get in the back here. You've also got two little pull tabs that allow you to bring down the seat, which is super practical. But overall, the Stelvio has a really nice interior. It's really clean, it's really simple and easy to use. Everything's where you want to find it. Now, if you look on the side here, you see some nice alloy wheels, and inside are Alfa Romeo's brakes, which are nicely painted written with the words Alfa Romeo on the actual calipers, which is a nice touch. The way the car sits is actually quite nice for an SUV. I'm a fan of plastic along here. I think it sort of breaks up the distance that the body has with the wheel. So now we're going to jump on the inside, and that's really where the Stelvio shines. It's a lot more interesting than your average SUV. So let's go check it out. So stepping onto the interior of the Stelvio, immediately greeted by these massive shifter paddles. They're made out of aluminium and they don't feel cheap at all, which is surprising because even my family's Range Rover Evoque has these nice little plastic cheapy sort of shifters which you just never want to touch, but here you want to be shifting gears all the time and it shifts really smooth. What else you've got is this beautiful design steering wheel which sort of carries across the range. It doesn't matter which Stelvio you sort of step into, you always get this steering wheel and it looks really pretty. Like, you've got a flat bottom to it. Some people don't like that, but come on, it looks cool in an SUV. You've also got your start-stop engine button on the steering wheel, just like a Ferrari or even the Stelvio QV and the Giulia QV. You've also got plenty of buttons and plenty of assists like auto stop, blind spot, assist, radar, cruise control. It goes on. They've really optioned this car up for sure. In the middle you have a shifter which is very reminiscent of BMW shifter. That's because it is. It's the same ZF transmission that they use there, and it's super intuitive, really easy to use. This screen is awesome. It integrates really nicely into the dashboard. It's not a stick-on display. It's not anything, you know, stupid like that. It doesn't pop out of the display. It's there all the time and it sits beautifully and integrated into the dashboard. And when you start up the car, obviously foot on brake, Yeah, and then you boot up the system and you've got everything from, you know, media, sat nav, your normal stuff, but then you have the DNA controls down here, which are my favorite. A for all weather, N for normal, and D for dynamic. Just blasting up the aircon here because it's a bit hot today. But I love the fact that you get the changed display in the middle with D and A. It's well thought out, that's what it is. It's a really thought out interior, and they really wanted to nail that Alfa Romeo spirit of a dynamic drive and making sure you got everything that makes a dynamic drive, like a dynamic interior. What I mean by dynamic interior, like I said, flat bottom steering wheel, column mounted shifters, stuff that you get in a sports car into an SUV. Also this beautiful aluminium trim that goes across here and in the middle. That is an option, but I would say option it because it looks like carbon fiber, but it's not pretending to be, which I know some manufacturers do. So there's not much to really say when you're back here. There is plenty of space back here. There's plenty back here. There's 2 USBs back here. There are 2 air vents. Ideally, you're going to be transporting 4 people quite comfortably. You can transport 5, but 5 might be pushing it for a very long distance, but 4 super comfortably. It's got everything you need for 2 people to be back here comfortable. They got their own power, they got their own air, and they've got their enough space. I mean, sitting right here in the middle, not in the middle, behind the driver's seat, it's comfortable. I have plenty of space. There's a beautiful sunroof here, and I go, and you're nice and high up. It's not claustrophobic back here, which is what some SUVs can make the mistake of doing, is either having windows that don't go down enough or have windows that sort of taper off too quickly. It's not claustrophobic. There's plenty of air, plenty of space, and you're gonna have a good time for a long trip. And like I said, this big bolster here allows for a nice relaxing snooze if you're going for a long trip. Now, welcome to the inside of the Stelvio TI. This is Alfa Romeo's most sporty model, I guess you could say, other than the QV, like we've already discussed. But driving this immediately, you're sitting more in the car than on it. Like most SUVs sit above, like a truck, but this, I don't feel afraid to put the foot down and take corners harder when you're in dynamic, which stiffens up the suspension. And it makes the right noises as well. I mean, from the outside, it doesn't sound extra special, let's be honest, but that's not its role. It's designed to be a quicker SUV and a sort of like a trim level as well, but it's got the power and it just gives you the right amount of sound, nothing too fake as well. BMW. The thing that's cool about the bonnet, it sort of gives you the illusion of fender flares, with the bonnet sort of dipping down the middle and leaving 2 sort of higher bits on either side, which is kind of nice and kind of cool, so it allows you to put in better placement. It also carries the power as well, like 0 to 105.7 seconds. If you think that's slow on paper, you've never experienced 0 to 105.7, because it just carries through a little bit. It doesn't run out of breath. It just allows you to put your foot and you go, okay. In an SUV, you normally put your foot down and nothing too exciting happens, but in this, it's a bit more dynamic, a bit more exciting. Obviously without the sound of the V6 Ferrari engine, but who really cares? You got these paddles on the side, you start bringing them down. We're in 3rd gear, now we're in 2nd, revs go higher, and you have a nice little straight, and then that is a lot of fun. Oh, it really is a dynamic car. It's a lot of, it really is really fun. This is pretty fun for the money. So $80,000 you're looking at for this. For some people that's out of their price range, but for this, it's perfect sort of mid-range SUV territory. Alfa Romeo is fairly new to the market, so it doesn't really have that fan base behind it just yet. But once people drive this and actually use it like an Alfa Romeo, like if you put your foot down, that gearbox kicks so well. It's really a weird amount of fun to have in an SUV. And the floor-mounted accelerator pedal, great fun. And then all you have to do, it's literally like it's really cool. The paddles actually work like the gearbox. So you can pull both paddles back, and that's just going to put you into neutral. Pull one paddle on the right, it's going to put you back in the drive, and then going to be back off. And now, if you put it back into normal, it's just going to tone it down a little bit and make it a bit more everyday driving, like, you know, a bit more fuel economic, and boost your fuel economy and all that. But I can tell you what, this is some of the most fun you'll have for the money and in the market, to be honest. So now it's time to give it a Discovercars score. Strong practicality score at 8 out of 10, simply because it is an SUV, but it's just not as big as those full-size SUVs. You're looking at a daily score as well as an 8 out of 10. It's great for navigating those potholes in the city, and yeah, quite frankly, it is an SUV, so it's going to be a great daily. However, SUVs, parking, fuel economy, not as good as a lighter car, so hence an 8 out of 10. Performance, that's a 7 out of 10, simply because it's 200 kilowatts and 400 newton meters from a 4-cylinder. It's great performance, 0 to 105.7 seconds. Super strong, but just not as quick as other cars in its class. And you wait until the Stelvio QV comes out, that should be rising up a little bit, that score. But at the moment, the Stelvio TI, that is a 7 out of 10. Now for the cool factor, it is an Alfa Romeo. It is dynamic and it's got the looks and the attention to detail. So in my opinion, it gets an 8 out of 10 for cool factor because it's Alfa Romeo's first SUV. It's going to get more looks than a BMW or a Range Rover or anything like that. They're going to go, what is that? It looks great, it looks dynamic, it looks exciting. So hence, an 8 out of 10 for the Stelvio on cool factor. Giving it a total Discovercars score of 7.75 out of 10, which is very strong, and I would definitely recommend this car in your shortlist if you're looking for something that's going to be driving a bit more fun and looks a bit better than your mainstream SUVs. Now, I got to say a huge thank you to Golson in Canberra. They sell everything under the Fiat Chrysler sun, as well as Porsche and used cars, but here I borrowed it from Golson, Jeep, Chrysler, and Dodge, and Fiat, and Alfa Romeo. You can keep going on, but if you want to buy this exact car, you can actually buy it at Golson's in Canberra, and they have it for sale, and plenty of other Stelvios for you to choose from. And I just want to say a big thank you to them for lending the car today. Follow us on Instagram. That's when you see all my posts when I'm not here posting on YouTube, and at Discovercars, and stories about behind the scenes and whatnot. But otherwise, it's been a really good chat. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.